The Blue Shadows. In the quaint village of Oak Ridge, an unsettling mystery had begun to unfurl. Nestled between mist-shrouded hills and tangled woods, the villagers once led mundane lives, rich in traditions and warm-hearted rituals. Yet a darker thread had woven itself into the fabric of their communities, and at its heart was Sandeep, a man whose green-eyed jealousy festered in the depths of his troubled soul. Sandeep was unlike anyone in Oak Ridge. With a razor-sharp mind and a contempt for vulnerability, he took pleasure in tormenting the elderly, those frail, feeble witnesses of time's cruel passage. As if to mock them, he painted their old sunken faces in a peculiar shade of blue, a haunting canopy draped across his victims, marking them with a brush dipped in cold disdain. It was as though he sought to trap their unfulfilled dreams in the quiet hue of despondency. The villagers spoke in hushed tones about the sinister figure, their words brushing past him like autumn leaves in the wind. They whispered of his past, a tale marked by jealousy drawn from a life unfulfilled, a portrait of envy hanging behind weary eyes. Jealousy can breed misery, they said, not just for the jealous, but also for those caught in the web of their wrath. One figure rose against this tide, a woman steeped in the sacred traditions of her community, DCI Sholey. With a resolve forged through devotion and compassion, DCI Sholey had donned the dual robes of a detective and a vicar, dedicating her life to uncovering the dark shadows that enveloped Oak Ridge. Her faith guided her during long nights spent wading through an endless sea of clues, each more perplexing than the last. Rumors of Sandeep's twisted activities reached her, drawing her deeper into a realm of fear and hatred that she initially believed could be quelled with understanding. But she soon learned that the monster was not merely a figment of her imagination. He was a predator who thrived on isolation, striking at the vulnerable and feeding off their despair. One chilly evening, as fog curled around the village and Alatrib bluets nodded in the breeze, DCI Sholey went to visit Mrs. Hargrove, an elderly widow who had been Sandeep's latest canvas. She found the old woman sitting in her dimly lit living room, her cheeks streaked with unsettling blue paint. "Sandeep," she whispered, her voice frail. "He thrives on your fear, my dear. Do not let him see your weakness." With a heavy heart, Sholey returned home, the hints of despair weighing heavily upon her. Determined to confront the beast lurking within her village, she meticulously analyzed every scrap of evidence she had gathered over the past weeks. But soon the malevolence would not allow her to bask in the sanctuary of safety. One taunting night, Sholey received a cryptic message that chilled her to the bone. One final canvas awaits. Can you guess whose? The sharpness of fear pierced her heart as the implications dripped like poison. That very night, she learned that Sandeep had targeted her mother, a kind, gentle soul often seen weaving through the bustling market, offering smiles to even the darkest days. Racing against time, Sholey barely found her breath in the darkness, her frantic mind echoing with fears of inadequacy, helplessness churning under the veil of urgency. She arrived at her mother's cottage to find the door ajar, an eerie silence wrapping around her like frozen arms. Inside, shadows danced unsettlingly on the walls, casting a haunting atmosphere that brought forth a primal dread. Sholey steadied herself, summoning every ounce of bravery as she stepped over the threshold. The moonlight peeked through the window, illuminating the pale blue of Sandeep's bottle in the corner, a twisted ornament to mark his latest victim. She dashed through the building, pushing open each door she encountered, but there was silence, until a slow, sinister murmur echoed from the basement, a place lost among cobwebs and forgotten memories. Heart racing, she descended, the dim light revealing a sight that clawed at her soul. Sandeep stood over her mother, an artist before a masterpiece, an expression of manic delight plastered across his face. "No!" Sholey screamed, lunging forward just as Sandeep deftly wielded the paintbrush of despair and their eyes locked. The green of his jealousy stark against the blue of her mother's visage. The clash that followed was a brutal whirlwind filled with desperation and rage, but Sandeep was quick. He struck a blow that sent Sholey sprawling. As she lay on the cold floor, the last sound she heard was the haunting melody of her mother's lullaby, twisted and silenced by Sandeep's monstrous victory. Loneliness draped over Sholey like a heavy winter cloak. But deep inside her, the embers of vengeance still flickered. Time passed. The village continued its quiet routines, occasionally whispering tales of a strange painter who vanished into the woods. But DCI Sholey, now driven by grief and purpose, would not let the mystery of the blue shadows linger in silence. Trees whispered secrets to each other, their leaves rustling with urgency, and the once peaceful village awaited the return of a new avenger in the fold, a haunted vicar with the darkness of jealousy in her heart. And so, echoes of betrayal and vengeance began to weave their way through Oak Ridge, as Sandeep's shadow continued to loom, waiting to be painted over in scarlet retribution.